Hey guys, Trigger John coming at you with the Diablo 4 video. Alright, so the D4 beta is basically, it's wrapped up for me at this point. It is quarter till midnight on Sunday night. I do have a day job, so I will be going to work tomorrow morning, so I will not get to enjoy the rest of the beta progress. So I went ahead, I took a break, and I recorded a bunch of content in the game, so that way I can make further videos. But the first thing that I want to kind of talk about with this is, how was my experience with the first beta of Diablo 4 that's at least coming right before the launch of the game, right? Like, this is going to be the closed beta. For those who pre-bought the game or got the KSC codes, I'm going to give you my full and detailed thoughts on this, as well as kind of go over a little bit of what I experienced in the game, kind of show a couple of things that were not available that make it really hard to judge the game as far as how well we think it's going to be in-game wise. But I do want to talk about a lot of positives and a few negatives that happened in the game that I do think there's a lot of room for improvement. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and let's talk about the overall experience so far. So as you can see here, if I pull up and I look at my character here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 legendaries on my rogue. I'm missing 2 legendaries. Now, this was, full disclosure, the first character that I got to level 25 here, and it was a bit of a grind. I'm not gonna lie, I definitely noticed really quickly that the fact that you can only go to level 25 and having very limited skill points, it made a big difference when I could not grab really anything down here. I could go grab an ultimate. I should go do that. But into beta, doesn't really matter at this point for me, right? Maybe next weekend, we'll check it out. But I definitely noticed that we're missing quite a few here as far as everything is concerned. Obviously, your character is going to go to level 70. We're only going to level 25. So this means I'm going to have an additional, 35 additional points that could go into this tree, which I think at that point will make the rogue a lot more balanced. Because right now, the kind of the feels bad man situation is, I prefer playing a rogue that is ranged, right? Like, I'm a demon hunter in most of the other games with Diablo 3 and Immortal, right? I love good range play. I love bow play. So I really wanted to focus with that on the rogue. Now, I was able to come up with a build that felt good and had fun doing it. And I think that's the biggest takeaway here. However, I do feel like this the skill system here was a little lackluster as far as, I think they had an amazing opportunity here to do something really cool. However, they kind of just, I wouldn't say dropped the ball, but it's kind of like a missed opportunity because they're kind of laying the groundwork for this. And the way this is spread out, I mean, I think it's spread out to make it feel like it's really robust and a lot of skills, when really it kind of isn't, unfortunately. I do like the way how they did these nodes. It is a little different. I would love to see this more linear, and that way you can kind of just focus on one and the other. And I'd like to see that the fact that there shouldn't just be 3 nodes after a skill. I think that's kind of a waste, and I really hate that I got to put multiple nodes into one skill here. That does feel a little awkward, a little clunky. But overall, in general, I really enjoyed playing the rogue. It was a lot of fun. It was my first class I did. I quickly figured out that rapid fire was my best friend, especially rapid fire paired with dash, paired with poison imbuement. This made a night and day difference as far as knocking everything down. And then, of course, going ahead and getting more poison damage made a big difference on destroying everything. This made bossing with a rogue super simple. And open world farming was still a little rough, but there's a few legendaries that kind of helped me out, right? One other thing to note with this is I did notice that one thing I didn't really realize, because honestly, we were kind of, unfortunately, unlike Diablo Immortal, where we had a lot of pre-conversations, announcements, pre-betas, so on and so forth, that you kind of get a better idea or feel. Well, I shouldn't say betas, there's like only one, but we had a lot more material that was posted that kind of helped us prepare more for Diablo Immortal. Diablo 4 didn't seem to have a lot of that, right? It was mostly just press media kit. All the betas, all the alphas were under NDA, so no one can really leak any information for us. So we're kind of on our own. But one thing I did find really cool is the simple fact that I have a lot more skills here on my tree than what I identified, right? One of my legendaries modifies Poison Trap, Dark Shroud, Twisting Blades, and where was the other one? I had another one. Oh, I just salvaged it. That's right. Barrage. Barrage is the other one, and I had another modifier to Barrage that made the build feel really good. But I really love that aspect, because if we go into the tree here, notice I didn't take any points, and yet Poison Trap is awarded. Now, this is an item contribution, as you can see. I absolutely love this mechanic in the game that they added. This was not something that I expected to see in Diablo 4, and I was very happy to see it because what this tells me and shows me is you can really give you a good diversity of legendaries, take your main skills that you know, and maybe acquire one that you didn't necessarily know. And we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna hop over to my wizard champion in just a second here, because I actually have one of them that has 6 out of 5 on there, and I wanna show what the difference is if you actually get an additional stat or not. So that way you guys as viewers moving forward in Diablo 4 can kind of know this, and maybe if they change it once the game actually launches, it'll change a little bit of the dynamics as well. All right, so we are back and we are actually on my wizard, which my wizard actually was super fast, or sorry, my sorcerer, we'll call him, was super fast to level. It was pretty insane. This one I got to level 22 in a matter of, I would say about 3 hours total of gameplay, which is insane because it took me over 17 hours to max out my rogue, which is embarrassing in my opinion. And that's also with a rip on hardcore mode, right? But notice that my legendaries were so much easier to get on my wizard. I even have legendaries stashed for my wizard. I never did find the pants, but that's okay. I got all the legendaries here, and that made a good feel to the build. And then on top of that, I did notice where you can overpower some of your skills. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna regress this, so that way you guys can see what actually happens when you hit the level 6 out of 5, because I thought this was kind of interesting. So in this case, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and refund the cost of this point here and there. Now notice that this went ahead and gave me, as you see here, I have lucky hit chance 79%. I have summon a 3-headed Hydra, 12 seconds. Maximum 1 Hydra at a time. Next rank gives me 53 out of 65, right? So if I go ahead and I put it up there, you notice that this did increase. Now, this did make a difference at 6 out of 5, right? It did not mean that it topped out at 5 and I didn't need to use all 5 points. It did change it with that 6 points, which I think is a pretty good system. It actually kind of reminds me a little bit of Path of Exile, where you could do certain skills where like a +1 socket a gem, right? Or +2 socket a gem, depending on what the modifier was. Now, is this linear? Not exactly. They've kind of dumbed this down just a little bit, but it did feel really, really, really good overall when playing this particular build. Now, one other thing that I want to kind of point out is, unfortunately, this game was very limited. It was very, very, very limited as far as what we were able to actually achieve and accomplish, right? Like when we come over here to even the jeweler, there's not a whole lot that we could really do as far as crafting was concerned. Obviously, we could do unsocketing, but even to add sockets here, I only got 3 scattered prisms total, which means I can only take 1 item and add a socket because it does take 2 of them. And that is because of limitations for I can only go to Arena 2, not Nightmare or higher. So the drop rates were a little different. And the world boss, I didn't get in on every single world boss one. So that kind of left me a little bit hanging there in some aspects of it. But notice I could go ahead and add a socket to this one, and we'll add 1 socket. Cost me 4,500, or well, it was at 4,700 gold, so on and so forth. But that is something you could potentially do. And I did want to point out that this was a little lackluster, unfortunately. Now, upgrading jewelry, this is another thing where yes, you could technically upgrade your jewelry and increase these stats. Now, obviously, we're not going to min-max the level 25 hero, but this felt okay. It looked even better, especially with the iron chunks that would need to be used. These were very prevalent in the world. You can see I have 569, and it's only going to take 5 to upgrade this. That's a really good feeling, but I feel like that's once again giving us a currency that's not too potent, so to speak, which doesn't really, it just adds an extra step, not so much a meaningful currency, right? And that's where I'm getting at with that. That's kind of one takeaway that I noticed in the game. This may all change. I imagine that some of these are very different. No different than like if we wanted to, oh, hold on, let's go put this back, thank you. If we wanted to actually talk more about it, right? We can refund all of our points. 23 points to refund would cost me this amount of gold. That seems super, super low to respec. I think this is because of beta. So I'm really hoping that none of these currency amounts are actually final with the currency stats that we have coming out here. But that was something I did notice that was very, I would say, intriguing as far as what they did there. Obviously, with the occultist, this was a different one too, where we didn't get a full experience of what to really expect with this, right? I didn't do anything with this character, I forgot. But imprinting an aspect of a character, now this is pretty cool, where you could take a legendary extraction, put it in here. Obviously, you have these ones here that I've acquired. I can modify pieces of gear to go ahead and make those legendaries for me. Taking a yellow, making it a legendary. That's really cool. Same thing, I could reverse engineer. If I were to pop over here, I could do this. I would get that extraction, get that legendary essence. This is no different than any other of the games currently, right? This is pretty much part of the course. Nothing out of the ordinary. Craft sigils. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do any of this because you have to get into Nightmare to actually get any of these sigil powders, which is kind of unfortunate that we couldn't test any of these out because I did want to check them out and see what happened. And then obviously we have enchant item. This is going to be where you can actually influence and make your skills a lot better on each piece of gear. I did kind of I like this system. It's very basic. It reminds me a lot of Last Epoch, actually, the way they kind of managed it. Only there's one less item that's going to be used here to modify your gear, unlike Last Epoch, which required, I think, 3 different materials to go ahead and modify it. But I thought that was really neat. And then another thing that I thought was even neater, for those of you, once again, I hate to always bring up Path of Exile, but it's one of the games that is a forefront. I would say really the only major competitor to ARPG games to Diablo is, in my opinion, Path of Exile. But one thing that I thought was really, really neat that they did here is advanced tooltips, compare and advanced tooltip information. This is available in other games, but you got to kind of hit some buttons here and there to kind of toggle it on and off to see what the min-max rolls. But with these 2 settings alone, what it did is it allowed you to really see all of your min-max rolls to see, okay, I got a mana cost reduction. The max is 4.5%. Well, I got 4.5% on this piece of gear. And then you can go through, you can see all the other ones. So you can see really where your piece has been maxed, see what needs to be rolled up, how much return on investment could you potentially get. I really love that aspect. I like that was a cool quality of life thing that they already had built into the game and wasn't something that we were going to get later on down the line. Now, it is very unfortunate that this was so limited, but I did enjoy the basically how it all went. Also, you can come down here and you can gamble. So if you go to the Purveyor of Curiosities, you could go and gamble gear. I was able to get a lot of legendaries, no different than like Kadala and D3, or the actual gambling that you could do in Diablo Immortal if you're coming from Diablo Immortal, right? So that was really neat. They left that in there. Unfortunately, we were not able to ride any horses during the game. It's kind of a meme, but that's okay. We'll deal with that. But healing potion upgrading with Veronica, this was kind of cool. I did it on my main character. I didn't really do it on this one at all, but you can craft different elixirs. And I thought that was really neat. I thought it was really cool that you could craft elixirs for XP, for health, for everything else, and then put them on the hot bar so that way you can recover. Nothing wrong with that, but I feel like you really need to focus on your build more so if you're kind of needing and relying on those types of elixirs. But overall, very neat aspect, and it was easy to grab all the materials and herbs out in the world, at least on this first beta system, right? Moving on to a lot of other things, we have challenges that we were able to complete, not complete. I thought these were cool. There was a lot of them that were able to be done. Rewards, obviously, that could be had for them. I love it when games do that. It makes you kind of feel more a little objective on trying to complete things. The social aspect here was really lackluster. I was very bummed about it, to be honest with you. And it was pretty bad. Actually, it was Amber Turd that kind of pointed out some of these things to me. So shout out to her and her channel for actually talking with us about it. We had a very good talk with Amber Turd, Darth Micro, Veiled Shot, Chosen, a lot of other content creators. We were all just in general chat as we were playing and grinding through. And we had a lot of I wouldn't say hot takes, but a lot of different takes on things, right? Because some of us love things more than others did. And one thing that Amber pointed out is this was very lackluster. So for example, if I wanted to join Chosen right now, yeah, I have all these options, which is great. However, when I hit view profile, there's no metric here for me to see exactly like what his damage is, what everything else is. And when I say the metric here, notice once again, no more options. But we all know that when we go to our character, right? When we pull up our actual character, you can see my attack power, my armor, my life, my strength, all these stats. Like, it would be really nice if you could see those stats very easily and make it quick and accessible for your friends, right? Like, say if you want to help a buddy out or look at it and be like, oh yeah, your stats are too low, you should probably look at them in maxing, so on and so forth. It was kind of a bummer. Also, you can see here, yes, I could see everything that they've got kind of equipped in here, which is kind of okay, but there's not a whole lot engaging in this, right? So the social aspect was a little, I would say, lackluster. And also the voice chat in game didn't work very well. So we kind of just ignored that one, right? But overall, through and through, once again, minor things. These are minor, very minor things. The gameplay felt great. The clan system was fine. Nothing too extravagant here. Very simple. And obviously game for options, and the options were pretty decent. Now, one thing I did find interesting is the map here. It took me forever to notice the screen on the right-hand side because it was tucked away. for the journal. I think this should be auto extended when you go into your map. Just throwing it out there, at least for me. But yeah, anyways, this was kind of cool, but unfortunately we couldn't really do a whole lot because of the limitations of only one act. And I don't pay attention to the storyline anyways. I don't care about any storylines in any game. I was able to find all of the statues of Lilith. There'll be another video coming out later this week that'll have a walkthrough of all the Kiavstead ones. That way you can do a full circle, get everything done and organized. But the journal itself was kind of okay. Nothing too extraordinary here, but nothing terrible either. Overall, I would say the beta was a lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed it. Sork was broken. Sork is the Hydra for the Sorcerer is the most OP skill in the game, at least to level 25. And looking at the skills for the other classes, especially like my class, which is going to be the Rogue, yeah, the Sorcerer is hands down going to just destroy my Rogue. I think the Rogue's damage needs to be buffed just a smidge. Barbarian seemed to be pretty balanced. Sorcerer was for sure way too overpowered. Everyone who ran it was able to level up super quick and get super ahead of everyone else, which I feel like was kind of unfair, to be honest with you guys. But overall, I think it went really well. I enjoyed it. I can't wait to see what they actually do with the main game. I really am curious what the end game is going to look like, because we all know that with any Diablo game, with any game out there, right? If you don't have an end game, what really you're going to be doing with yourselves? No one wants to have a repeat of D3, because if they did, they would just continue to play D3. And with D3, there wasn't a whole lot of end game to be had, right? So I really hope they do something with D4. They've already switched it up and given us world bosses, which is neat. However, that is not by any means a end game. That's no different than Heliquary in Diablo Immortal, and that became more of a hassle than it was a enjoyable part of the game. So, with that being said, I'm gonna probably give this beta about an 8 out of 10 overall. There were some bugs with the queues. There's a lot of invisible walls. There's a lot of glitches in the game itself. However, visuals are on par. They're amazing. They're great. Once I figured out how the best way to farm, which is through dungeon farming, that was amazing. Legendary drops felt good. They weren't too potent like on D3. However, they were just enough to kind of keep you more interested and more motivated. All of our base numbers were much lower, so that looked a lot better than seeing 1 billion, 2 million, whatever in D3. Overall, I would say the game looks like it can be a success. I'm very excited for it. I can't wait until the next upcoming weekend, so that way I can play the Necromancer and the Druid, and even check out the Barbarian a little bit if I can. Now, one other thing to kind of note here is I do really enjoy everything that we've had to get and gotten to play so far. Also, this little menu here was kind of interesting. I didn't realize that it existed. It is kind of interesting. Like, you can do all your emotes, you can do everything. You can bound these to different events. I thought that was really neat. I thought that was a cool quality of life thing in there. But yeah, overall in general, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. And yeah, can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Let me know down in the comments below. Did you play in the beta? Did you enjoy it? Did you watch in the footage? I really want to know everyone else's opinion, and I hope everyone else enjoyed it as much as I did. Until next time, guys. Peace.